Well, good morning. I'm Jim Moore, and you are watching or listening to Words of Encouragement. It is Wednesday, November 27th. Is that right? 27th. And tomorrow is Thanksgiving. So glad to have you. This is episode number 745. We are going to be talking about a number of things, but we're going to start off with Bonhoeffer, the movie about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, whether it's good or bad. And then we're going to talk about becoming like children. I may get to all of this. And then another gospel, what it means to preach another gospel and preparing for 2025. As usual, I want to ask you to like and subscribe and hit the bell and share. We ask you to do that because the algorithms respond to those and people will not see the program there will be people, let me say it in a positive, there will be people who will see it who would not otherwise see it unless you did those things. So, I'm not trying to guilt trip you, just saying it helps. All right. So, I want to put on my how would I say this, my movie critic hat today. Some of you have heard about the movie Bonhoeffer that has come out recently. I went and saw it a couple days ago, and I want to give you an idea of the movie without giving you any spoilers. If I have a spoiler alert, I'll tell you so you can mute it, but I don't think I have any. Hi Karen, how are you doing? But I want to encourage you, first of all, I want to say to go watch it, okay? Good or bad or indifferent, you need to watch it. Do yourself a favor and go and watch this movie. Now, Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a pastor, a theologian. If you saw the pictures that I put there on Facebook or YouTube or Rumble, you'll see the real Dietrich on the right and the movie actor that played him on the left. And so he was, good morning, he was a man of God. Now, you're going to see some things in the movie culturally, like he's smoking, okay? And a lot of Christians have an issue with that, and I'm not going to weigh in on that at all. But just understand that in that period of time, in the 40s, there was no medical evidence about the health issues of smoking, cigars, whatever. So he was a pastor, he was a theologian, wrote a number of books, and he also lived in the uprising of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime. Now, I know a lot of you guys probably are not into that. You're not like, I don't want to see any more disaster stuff, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to go see a bunch of emaciated bodies and warfare. That's not really what this movie is about, okay? There are so many parallels in this movie to today and where we are at today that I really think that it would behoove you to watch it. And I don't say that lightly. There are a lot of movies that come and go. But I would say if you have a choice between that and, say, Moana or whatever, you should go and see it. Hey, Pat, God bless you. And so let me just give you a little bit of information. Number one, I wish I could show you a trailer for it. If you haven't seen it, you can just go look it up. Just put Bonhoeffer movie trailer and you'll find it. But the trailer really speaks volumes. Now, first of all, in the trailer, they use this soundtrack. I don't even know who it is singing. It's not Simon and Garfunkel. Most of you, hi Monty, will remember Simon and Garfunkel singing The Sound of Silence. And the whole point of that song was to say, in silence, darkness grows. Okay? Very simple. This is a gentleman that's singing. I have no idea. It's a very rough voice. Oh, he's singing like that. But it's really good. And it's a great background to this trailer that it is all about the issue of whether or not people will allow darkness to grow because they're afraid to speak up, or they just get caught up. Now, some of you are going to see parallels between what's happening right now with Donald Trump and nationalism and all that. Let me just start out by saying that the message of the movie is that there is a legitimacy to putting leadership on a pedestal and even having a national pride. All things can be good or evil, right? Okay, right? Leadership can be good, leadership can be evil. You can honor leadership or you can worship leadership. Okay, as is what happened in the 40s, the early 40s with Adolf Hitler. They put him on a pedestal. They made him basically a god. And nationalism can also be good, okay, as I believe is happening right now, or it can shift and become something that's not good. Let me just say something real quick. Hi Linda, nobody knows what's going to happen, okay? Oh yeah, we do. We've got the prophets and all that. Okay, let me say real quick. I say this every time because it's true, and I want you to know I am for prophecy. I got married in conjunction with prophecy. I got saved. My salvation came in conjunction with prophetic words. So I am 100% for prophecy. Why? Well, mostly not because of my experience, but because of what happened in the Bible. God invented the prophetic. People have an innate and inward desire to know the future. Sometimes that's for good reasons, or sometimes it's not, like out of fear and so on. Sometimes we want to know so we can be rightly aligned with what God is doing. And God actually gave, we call it foretelling instead of foretelling, but whatever, semantic. Really, the truth is God said, hey, to the disciples, all these stones you see on this temple, they're all going to be cast down. Now, he was telling them what was going to happen in the future. Now, you don't want to call it fortune telling. I don't like doing that either because that's the way the devil does it. Witchcraft, fortune telling, all that. Totally believe that. Hi, Dennis. But God does do that on occasion. But think about this. In the 2,000 years, there's 60 seconds in a minute. I know I sound like I'm rambling. I'm making a point. There's 60 seconds in a minute. There's 60 minutes in an hour. There's 24 hours in a day. There are 365 days in a year. We've had thousands of days. Now, in the events that happen day by day, of the events, the number of those events, maybe there's 100 billion events that have happened in 6,000 years. Maybe trillions of events. There are probably a whole bunch of them today that will happen in your life. Of the trillions of events, just day-to-day events that have happened in the world, how many of them have God said, this is going to happen? A sliver. If you could put a timeline out and say, okay, here's 50 trillion, whatever, my numbers keep getting bigger, events, human events that have happened, how many have God actually prophesied about in ahead of time? A slice of them, okay? So don't think that it's just God's will that he says here. Now, nobody knew World War II was coming. Not really. In the Church of Jesus Christ, there were very few, almost zero voices that predicted or prophesied or said this is going to happen. So the reason I'm saying all that is to say, really, for the majority of events, we don't know most of what's going to happen, okay? Now, in Dietrich Bonhoeffer's day, this pastor, now the title or the subtitle of the movie is, I think it says, Pastor, Spy, Assassin. He technically was not an assassin. But I don't want to spoil the movie. I want to start out by saying I think it's a good movie. I think it speaks a lot to the day that we're living in. I think it is a great testimony as to what can happen when we put too much on leadership. Okay? I've had some dreams recently about Donald Trump and what's ahead. There we go. God saying, hey, Jim, heads up. Here's something that might be happening. Hi, Kevin. Nice to have you. Not Mike. God bless you guys. So we need to pray for him because he could do good things. He has promised to do good things. I believe he wants to do good things. But he could also go south because he's a man, right? And any man, except for Jesus, could go south. And some of the greatest men in the Bible did. I'm not predicting that. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm saying there's always the risk of that, and that's why we pray, right? Adolf Hitler, let me tell you a little bit about Hitler, and then I'll try to summarize the movie. Just hang on. I'll try to keep this short if I can. Adolf Hitler came to power, rose up in the ranks over time because the nation of Germany was in peril, okay? It was in the worst state it had been possibly forever, okay? We're talking about after World War I, a lot of people died and so on and so on. Now, let me give you just a couple facts about Nazi Germany. Oh, let me say, I put two scriptures here. One is These are scriptures. Side note. Jesus was asked about the end days. Here we go again, prophecy. Do you know what the number one thing Jesus said to do to be prepared for the last days? The number one thing. The very first thing he said. Anybody know it? Write it in the comments. Okay? Talk to one another. Come on. Let's get talky. When they said, Lord, when will these things be? He was saying that, I quoted earlier, he said, see this temple? See these ginormous rocks that are on top of these building blocks? That I've seen them, Linda and I in Israel, they're massive, tons. He said, you see these stones? Not one of them are going to be left on top of each other. He was literally forthtelling, prophesying what was going to happen. There's nothing they could do about it. So here's what they asked. Hi, Elijah. They asked two things. They said, Lord, when? There's the thing. We want to know when, right? Give us the time. Jesus had to say, listen, don't try to predict the end. Okay? When shall these things happen, and what shall be the signs that they're about to happen? So I believe they had a good heart about it. They wanted to know. What did Jesus say in response to that? He didn't answer them directly. Okay? He didn't say, well, okay, when will this be? Well, this is going to happen in about 200, blah, 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 60. Don't quote me on the dates. I think it was less than 60 years. This is going to happen in your lifetime. He didn't say that. He didn't answer that. Okay? Always be prepared. Thank you, babe. And then the next thing. So when will this happen? He didn't answer them. Not immediately. What will be the signs? That he did answer. But the very first thing he said, are you ready for this? Don't be deceived. Take heed that you are not deceived. The number one thing that Jesus said about the end days in preparation, how to be ready. He wants his people ready. He said, be aware. Take heed. Be careful. Be alert that you are not deceived. Now, I don't know about you guys, but have you ever asked yourself the question, how did an entire nation, the nation of Nazi Germany, fall for this? Well, I'm going to tell you how right now. Galatians 1:8-10 says, but if we or an angel from heaven, okay, and if we or an angel from heaven preach any gospel to you other than what has been preached, let him be accursed. Do you know that Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party had created what's called the German gospel? Okay, let me back up to you. The church was silent. Why? Because it elevated man, and it elevated this new gospel that the Bible says, if anybody preaches you another gospel, listen to me, lean in, listen real close. We are in danger of letting this happen. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying it could. Okay? Anytime, what does the Bible say again? I'm a Bible guy. I'm quoting the Bible. What does it say? To those who think they stand, take heed lest they fall. If we're not careful to hold our leaders accountable to the moral standard that God says is right and wrong, I'm telling you, there's a whole lot of verbiage and a whole lot of things that are going on in this massive red wave of political. I think a lot of good things that are happening. I want to go on the record and say I believe it's good. I'm glad Trump is in. I voted for him. I believe good things are coming if we stay on a good course. But when the cameras are off, what's going on? When no one is watching, what's going on? And when people begin to talk and act in a way that is non-Christian, while the cameras are rolling, that's a really bad sign. Okay? Because when people get comfortable with their words and with their actions that are not according to a Judeo-Christian standard in front of people, that means what they're doing when they're not in front of people is even worse. Now, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, all right? You understand what I'm saying? I'm just saying there's a saying, I'm saying a saying, okay? It says, authority corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is true, I think, for every human being that's ever been in an exalted leadership position except Jesus. They have had to struggle with this intoxication of authority and power, and you're going to do what I said. This is why we have despotism. This is why we have people, that basically just tell everybody you're going to do what I want you to do. All right. You understand what I'm saying? I'm talking about the risk. This movie, I'm still talking about the movie, is about that. Adolf Hitler rose to power in Germany in the late 30s, early 40s. Okay, World War II ended about 1945. 50 million people died in that conflict globally. Okay, that's a big deal. There weren't any prophets in the church saying, "Hey, this is coming." No, at least none that I know about. Okay, no major global. Okay, you get my point. All right, let me tell you a couple things about this. Okay, we're living in the end days. Jesus said, "Don't be deceived." This is what I'm trying to help you understand. All right. So in Bonhoeffer's Germany, okay, according to now I've got this is verifiable information, so I'm not giving you my opinion now. I'm telling you what you too can find in the annals of history. According to historical records, the population of Germany from 1940 to 1945 during those years of World War II was approximately 83 to 85 million people. Okay, stop. Emma, God bless you. Are you listening? In Germany, during this man rising up, okay, demon-possessed man, there were 85-ish million people in Germany. Let's go on. Say, yeah, well, there must have been a bunch of devils. No. See, this is the thing that troubles me. How did a nation of mostly Christians, well, they couldn't have been real Christians. I'm wagging my finger at you if you're just listening to the podcast. This is where we get in trouble. Can't happen to me. Couldn't happen here. Oh no, you don't know how good our leader is. Okay. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want anyone to think I'm putting the president-elect Trump down. I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's always a possibility. This movie shows you how this happened. A man who won the popular vote. Okay? A man who had tremendous charisma. A man who came into his country at a time very much like our time. It was at its worst state. Poverty was off the charts. Sexual immorality was rampant. The government was corrupt. Many husbands and fathers died in the war. We're talking about widows and over. It was bad. It was really, really bad. It was prime condition for a leader to step in and save the day. Now, I believe a good leader could have stepped in and saved the day. I believe that, okay? David stepped in and saved the day. Solomon stepped in and saved the day. Other godly men and women. Abraham Lincoln, okay? Some of you won't agree, but Kennedy, we have had at crisis moments in our history leaders that have stepped in and saved the day, okay? Because that's what God wants, all right? Now, like in the Bible, the same has happened in our days. Sometimes a leader starts out good and becomes bad. Sometimes the leader starts out bad and repents and becomes good. Nobody knows what's in the heart of a man. Only God knows. Now, how did an entire nation get led astray? One man. And a whole bunch of people that put what they wanted economically, that was the number one issue in Germany at the time, was economy. I'm telling you, follow the money. Always follow the money, okay? Because they wanted their own prosperity and comfort above morality. Can I just say this one thing? You attack the Jews, you attack God. Now, I believe the Jewish nation should be held accountable if they do bad things, just like anybody should be. Okay, I don't care what your nationality is. If you do bad things, you should be held accountable for it. But there is something about God's people that raises the hatred and the ire of the devil, and he tries to get this into the... Anti-Semitism is a testimony of the reality of a real Satan and a real God and a real God's people. Doesn't excuse them, okay? Doesn't mean they're always going to do good. All right. Let me read this now. So 85 million people. During Hitler's rise, Germany had a predominantly, are you listening now? this is the truth, it's a historic fact, predominantly Christian population. About 95% of Germany, not Nazi Germany, that's coming in a few years after, about 95% of Germany as Hitler is rising were Christian, professed Christians. Let's just say that. We always know there's a difference, okay? If you say you know Christ and you don't live like Christ, you don't know Christ. It's just that simple. Okay, you don't need to complicate it. Okay, he that says he knows him, I'm quoting scripture, ought to be living as he lives. Okay, so about 65% were Lutheran, 30% Catholic, less than 1% of them were in Judaism, and about 4% were all the other ones put together. Think about that. Just between the Lutherans and the Catholics, that was about 90, 60, 70, almost 95%. Okay? Let me go on. I hope I'm not boring you because I am reading some stuff. I typically don't do this. You need to understand, I would, if I were you, I would read a little bit about Dietrich Bonhoeffer before you go see the movie. Again, I'm going to say it again. Do yourself a favor and go see this movie. I actually had something happen to me. I don't want to sound ultra spiritual or anything, but I actually had the Lord confront me almost in a gentle way and say, Jim, why are you going to this movie? And he just kept asking until I gave an answer. And then he said, what do you want to get out of this movie? Don't you love the Lord? Aren't you glad, because I just wanted to go see the movie. And finally I was like, okay, I want to see what you see through this. Is this movie a message to my generation? If it is, what is the message? Okay. If it is, what are you trying to tell us? You're getting what I got from watching that. I encourage you, do yourself a favor and go see it. Okay. Now, the only thing I'm going to tell you about the actual movie, aside from the fact that Dietrich Bonhoeffer was, I believe, a true man of God, he was introduced to hatred. He saw this hatred manifesting in the United States and in his own country towards the Jews, and he became increasingly upset by it. Now let me say this. God is the God who hates oppression. Jesus is the God who loves righteousness and hates iniquity. It says that about him. If we do not or are not grieved at people being oppressed, then we are not like him. Oppression in all its forms. I could list race, creed, color, okay? People who are oppressed by other people. Now, I'm not talking about being punished for crimes. I'm talking about being oppressed for no reason other than I don't like you, I don't like how you dress, how you talk, I don't like your skin color, so on and so on. God does not like people being oppressed. He really doesn't like his own people that he called his wife, the wife of God, which is Israel, being oppressed. Not held accountable. Don't you dare say that he wants every human being held accountable. But he did say to Abraham, and he hasn't changed his mind, those who bless you would be blessed, those who curse you would be cursed. He doesn't like oppression. As Dietrich saw the increasing oppression of the Jewish race, he finally decided he could not sit by and be silent. And I believe it was him that coined the phrase. There's a couple of them. Silence in the face of evil is evil itself. I believe that was him who said that. It's quoted in the movie. Okay? To do nothing is to do something. Or, I'm sorry, I should have wrote it down. Doing nothing is the same as saying it's okay. Okay? So, there's one part in the movie that I want to draw your attention to so that you don't miss it when you see it. And I'm going to read to you so that you'll know it is a historic proof. Now, there's a part where you could easily think that Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime rewrote the Christian Bible. They did not rewrite, they did not make their own Bible. Okay. However, what they did do, in my opinion, is just as bad. Let me read it to you. Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime attempted to alter and manipulate Christian theology to align with their ideology, or we would call it their narrative. However, they did not directly rewrite the Christian Bible. Okay? The Nazis created a movement called positive Christianity. Ouch! Anybody hear that one? Positive Christianity. In other words, they cast the light of living a disciplined life, saying no to sin, living like holy, without holiness no man shall see God, like Jesus, okay? His death, his suffering, his abuse, they considered all that not being positive. Have you ever wondered why you never see anybody quote any scriptures that aren't like the nice, the flowery, the good? I love those. The Pollyanna scriptures. And they're good because Jesus wrote them, right? So how is it that we refuse to quote anything that doesn't fit that genre? Okay? We call them negative. That's what they did. Are you not aware that that is a strategy of Satan? That is a literal... I asked you the question, how did an entire nation of Christians get deceived? Because they bought into this idea that the Nazis actually created. This is history now. Again, it's not a theory. Something called positivus Christendom. It's a Jewish, I can't even say it, or Latin, I don't know. Which aimed to redefine Christianity to support their racist and nationalist agenda. The movement rejected national Christian teachings. Up until this time, okay, they taught the Bible, I don't know where they were at as far as their level of compromise or faithfulness to the written word of God. I don't know. But this got in. And usually this kind of deception, what did Jesus say in the last days? What was the first thing he said? Don't be deceived. You want to know how not to be deceived? You got to know the truth. The only way to keep from being deceived is to know the truth. The very first thing that Satan did in the garden was to tell a lie. The very last thing he will do in the end days is to deceive people. That's why Jesus said, don't be careful that you're not deceived. Jesus said, I am the truth. Satan is the father of lies. It is as simple as that. There are two things the Bible said are truth. Jesus said, I am the truth. I'm the way, the truth. Truth is a man. And then he also said, Father, sanctify them by your truth. Your word is truth. Wait a minute. Which one is it? It's both, because he is the word. If you don't know him personally as the truth, and if you don't know what he said as the truth, you're going to be deceived. Period. You will be. And you won't think you're being deceived. Deception depends on you not believing you're deceived. Come on, I want to see about 10 amens right there. Deception depends on you not believing that you're being deceived. Wow, that's a Godism. All right, so what did they try to do? Well, they wanted to remove what they considered negative things like the Old Testament. So they wanted to have just New Testament Bibles, okay? And in the New Testament, they didn't want the teachings of the Apostle Paul. That'll tell you something right there, okay? They deemed those writings, hear this now, I know I'm rambling on. Thank you, babe. They deemed the writings of the Old Testament, which many Christians will not read today. I'm telling you, it's like a plague in the Church of Jesus Christ. Oh, that's the Old Testament. And we don't read it because it's old, okay? That's Keith Green. All right. So they deemed them, listen now, Jewish. They took crucifixes out of the churches. They didn't want a Jewish Jesus. They didn't want Jewish writings, Old Testament. So let's get rid of the Old Testament. Sound familiar? They didn't want the writings of the Apostle Paul because they were considered, are you ready for this? Un-German. Let me read this again. They wanted to remove traditional Christian teachings such as the Old Testament and the Apostle Paul's writing, which they deemed Jewish, quote, or un-Jewish, unquote. Okay, you listening to me? I want to encourage those of you who are just starting to watch to go back and listen to the beginning of this so you get the background. I'm almost done. This was part of the Nazi effort to supplant, pluck up and plant traditional Christian values with their own ideology, or what we would call narrative. The, quote, German Christian movement. There was a real movement as Hitler's coming up called the German Christian movement. We're not just Christians anymore, we're German Christians, okay? Which was closely tied to the Nazi Party that advocated for the removal. Okay, I already read that. Here's what they did, and you're going to see this in the movie, and this is the only spoiler alert I'll tell you, okay? In some cases, they took the Bible out and they replaced it with Mein Kampf. Now, if you don't know anything about that book, that was Hitler's, what's the word we use for that? When his plan. There's a word for that I'm not thinking about. Mein Kampf means my struggle. And this was his plan. And it was pointed at an Aryan race, a superior race. Do you think Americans could do that? Oh yeah, 100% we could. Do you think we could elevate a leader? Now, I know some of you are going to believe that that's why I'm asking you to go back and listen to the beginning of this, okay? I'm saying that we are in a position where if we do the right things, things are going to go really, really good. If we do the wrong things, things could go really, really bad. Okay? All right. Linda's saying, that's the law, we're under grace. That's right, that's what people say. Listen, we are built on the foundation of the law and the prophets. Some things are done away. We don't slaughter animals anymore, okay? And there's more things beside that. But to throw it away because you don't like it, okay? All right, thank you, Lynn. Let me go on. So in some cases, Mein Kampf, the Bible, they literally either would put Mein Kampf literally right there on the platform, because lots of churches used to have elevated pulpits, and then they would have a place where the Bible sat, usually a really big Bible, and then it was only the Bible because that was the foundation of truth plus Jesus himself. But they would either place Mein Kampf as this new glorious text next to the Bible, or they would just take the Bible in some cases out altogether. Some churches actually used Mein Kampf as the liturgical text. This perversion of Christianity, Christian worship and theology was part of a broader Nazi effort to co-opt and corrupt Christianity, genuine Christianity, for their own ideological purposes. All right, let's recap real quick here. Okay. Hi, Heather. Again, I know some of you are just coming on. Please watch this from the beginning, or most of this will not make sense. I want to give 2 thumbs up to Bonhoeffer. From what I can tell, it is mostly, if not entirely, historically accurate. This is not really a feel-good movie. For those of you who don't like to be challenged about anything, don't go see the movie, because this movie will challenge you, as it should. It should cause you to go, what is worth? There's an old saying that says, if you're not willing to die for something, you're not willing to stand for anything. Let me say it again. If you're not willing to die for something, you're not willing to stand for anything, or you won't be able to stand. Dietrich Bonhoeffer started out as a pacifist. You know what a pacifist is? No violence. Never raise your hand to your enemy. True pacifism in the ultimate sense means that even if someone was attacking your wife and children, you wouldn't do anything but stand by and pray. It's completely unbiblical. There are measures of pacifism, turning the other cheek and so on. I'm not going to get into that, but he was a pacifist at some level. And he eventually decided, you know what? Would God sit by and let people be oppressed and say nothing or do nothing? And so he finally did something. Now, some people will say what he did was wrong. I don't believe it's wrong. To stand by, and again, sometimes I think we need to bring this down to a level in which we can grasp. Okay? Everybody can grasp your wife and kids, your husband and kids, whatever. Let's just say there were a group of school children out in the street, and 3 or 4 like gang members come up, and they just start beating them or assaulting them, doing wicked things to them, and you're in your house and you're looking out the window and you're seeing this happen. And see, Germany didn't know for a long time the extent of what was happening. And there's some point in the movie where he sees this, And he can't do nothing any longer. Satan wants you to shut up and pretend nothing's happening and say, well, that's not really my business. My business is just to love people into heaven. You're wrong. I'm sorry, but you're just wrong. It's not the truth. Okay? One day you'll see it if you don't. If that little group of kids was being assaulted and you sat in your living room and did nothing, God himself would hold you accountable for that. To say that we're never supposed to do anything, we're never supposed to help or rescue the oppressed, even if it means physically restraining in some way somebody, is just not right, in my opinion. You don't have to believe me, okay? All right, so Dietrich did that, and he went down in the annals of history as a hero in the faith. Did he do everything right? Probably not. So let me just say again, this movie is worth watching. I believe it is speaking to our generation that it is time for us to make a decision. What is right? What is wrong? Okay, we don't worship culture. Okay, we don't worship leadership, even good leadership. We hold them accountable before the Lord, and boy, do we ever need to pray for our leadership, because I believe our leadership is positioned to create massive seismic shift in our country, and maybe even bring us back to some really good things that we left behind. But they have to stay humble before the Lord. They have to be humble before the Lord, and not all of them, frankly, are. Okay? Amen. All right, thanks, Dana. So God bless you guys. Papa, let your word resonate in our heart. I pray as people go to watch this movie that you'll go with them just like you did me, and you'll challenge them, and you'll talk to them about things, and let them see things that they've never seen before, and make decisions that they've never made before. We love you. We thank you for this movie. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys. God bless you. Share this with somebody. If you know anybody that's contemplating seeing the movie, again, I'm going to end by saying, do yourself a favor and go watch this movie. All right, love you guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe and to share. It'll do 100 times more if you do those things, and people will get to see it. I love you all from my heart, and thank you, Heather, thank you, Monty, thank you, Dana. Thanks all of you guys. You're awesome people. You really are, and the Lord loves you way more than I do. Just remember that, and be thankful tomorrow. Yeah, it's okay to take a day and just, the Lord challenged me. I'll stop with this, but the Lord challenged me once, and he said, Jim, do you think you could spend a whole day without asking me anything? Ooh, I was like, I don't know. No, actually, that's not what I did. What I said at first was, oh, sure, yeah, because my arrogant little self. Oh, yeah, sure, I can go a whole day without asking you for anything. Oh, my gosh. I kept asking without even realizing. Yeah, anyway, you might want to try that. Take a whole day. Don't ask the Lord for a single thing. Believe me, you'll survive. Just thank him. All right. God bless you. Love you. Give yourself permission to have a great day. Bye-bye.